Yes, northern Spain, temperatures in the mid-60s. It's a perfect day to launch this third big race of the season for the Tour men. And I'll tell you what, it's going to be a highly competitive one. Hello again, everybody. Welcome back. Here's the old team again. I'm Phil Liggett, joined by Paul Sherwin and by Bob Roll. We're all looking very much forward now to this final big race of the season. Stage race, that is. Paul, take us through the race.
Well, it's the shortest of all the three Grand Tours and certainly going to be a very interesting route, starting with a team time trial around Gijón and then moving down the Bay of Biscay towards Santander and then turning inland for the first time to the famous cycling town of Burgos. A short transfer down to Soria and down to then Zaragoza for, of course, a very interesting first individual time trial before the race then heads up towards the Pyrenees. A mountaintop finish at Cauterets and then, of course, at the Pla de Beret before the riders then head into Andorra. A very typical first 10 days of racing before the riders get down to the Mediterranean. A long transfer down to the southern part of the Iberic Peninsula as we go down to Albacete, where on stage 13 the riders have their second individual time trial. They then head inland for a succession of two very difficult mountaintop finishes. I think the most difficult of all will be the summit of Sierra Nevada. Riding away from Granada on stage 17, where they head back up towards the north and Cordoba, and then the Tour of Spain finishes for the last few days right around Madrid, but a very difficult uphill mountaintop time trial on stage 20.
Yes, that's something of an innovation. Thanks, Paul. 21 stages, 2 rest days, making a total of 23 days, 22 teams, a total of 198 riders. We reckon 8 of these stages will suit the sprinters, 9 are for the mountain boys, 2 individual time trials and a mountain time trial. And if you want to see all the mountains, there they are: 11 first category, 5 outside category and 5 second category climbs. Well, we can now go to the action on today's stage. It's the team time trial. As the Once team now come to the final kilometre of the team time trial, the opening day of the Vuelta España. A massive crowd here in this coastal town of Gijón, and it's going to be the best time, and it should be the winning time as they now make the way down. Just look at this crowd, Paul. This is a marvellous finish, the team. There's the time to beat. The first team off 32.25, Ibanesto, and now Once are going to absolutely annihilate that time.
I think the important thing here is not the speed of these guys, but the fact that they've all worked very well together. They've lost 2 men out on the course. The time they have to beat, there is the time of Ibanesto.com, 32.25. But these guys have gone faster than anybody else, and you can see González de Galdeano there at the moment in 3rd place, trying to move himself up into 1st. They want him to be the first yellow jersey of this year's Vuelta a España.
Well, if he does, he'll do what Joseba Boloki did last year and take the race lead for Once on day 1. As there's no doubt the first man from this squad to cross the line is going to be the first golden jersey of the Giro d'Italia. But this doesn't look to me like Galdeano who's going to take it, or is he going to move over? Because there they are, they've moved over for him. Once have produced a magic time, almost a 32-minute flat ride at 32.01. Here comes the big sprint up to the line now, but don't overdo it too much because the rest are right there. Looks like George Hincapie is steering them through at the front. There's the time, 32.01, as the riders now, having made a big effort to come off the back of the group. The 5th rider, this is George now, the 5th man is where the clock will stop, and it's going to be in 2nd place for Postal. They look as though they may have closed the gap. They were 16 seconds down. They're a little bit closer than that, but it hasn't been quite good enough, the recovery. As they come up, they lose by just 10 seconds, so they pull back 6, but they finish in 2nd place. But 10 seconds is absolutely nothing as they go out on the highway tomorrow. Well, 9 of them on the podium. 2 of them, of course, weren't with the team when they crossed the line. Pradera and Jörg Jatska both dropped and lost over 4 minutes to the second team on the board. But nonetheless, they share in the honours here, and it's Igor González de Galdeano, all smiles on the far right, who will pull on the leader's jersey. It's all worked out for them, Paul.
It certainly has. This team has spent an awful lot of time and money over the last few years just specially preparing for this kind of discipline, and at the end of the day it just goes to show that it pays off. They're putting their man Igor González de Galdeano into the lead just as they did last year with Joseba Boloki, but there's an awful long way, Phil, before this bike race gets back up to Madrid.
Bob, we'll be surprised, I think, to hear that Ivan Caranta of Saeco, who was dropped early on, has abandoned the Tour already. I can't remember that happening for many years. And in the Relax Fuenlabrada team, by the way, 3 riders who crashed, and we never saw that on television, Santiago Blanco, Jose Meister, Nico Burgos, apparently finished, but have all gone to hospital and may not start tomorrow.
Well, Ivan Caranta has totally lost the plot of international cycling. He's not a climber, he's a field sprinter, but to be put out of the race just after the first time it pointed up, absolute disaster for Saeco and Ivan Caranta.
All right, well, as we see the Once boys saluting what is quite a large crowd here in Gijón, we can have a look at how the results has worked out today. The first 2 are the same as 1 year ago. Kelme, who finished 3rd last year, dropped to 4th. Benesto, who finished 7th last year, really improved up to 3rd. And the Quick Step, the Vitamon team from Belgium, losing just 48 seconds. And remember that Frank Vandenbroek, we never know quite what he's going to do when he comes to a bike race, has really got himself in a good mental frame of mind for this year's event. And I think we can expect to see something of him, perhaps when the racing gets out on the highways tomorrow. Well, this man will collect all of the leaders' jerseys. It usually happens on the opening day, especially in a team time trial. This is the one that he will wear tomorrow, of course. It's the golden jersey as the first leader of this year's Vuelta España. Last year, it was his teammate, Joshiba Balocchi, who pulled it on after winning the team time trial. They almost made a mistake, I felt, because he just about managed the first place crossing of the line when his front man did slow down.
I think he misjudged it just a little bit. It was an awful long way from that final bend in the road towards the finishing line, and I think he felt he had the power to lead out for the last 500 metres. Rather a strange mistake, Bob, but that I think indicates that maybe he's not quite yet at the top of his form in this 3-week bike race.
Well, he did an absolutely fabulous effort out there on the roads. He led the team through a lot of the time checks. He was doing a good job, and he's been well rewarded here with the first golden jersey of the bike race.
And welcome back to the second day of coverage of the Tour of Spain. The riders going 148 kilometres a day from Gijón to Cangas de Onís. Well, let's have a look at the route that they are facing now. As I say, it's not a flat one. We say goodbye to the coast, albeit only briefly, and race inland today, and that's where the hills are waiting for the riders. And I can tell you they're already showing signs of cracking under the strain out on the course today. It's a 148 kilometre stage. Let's have a look at the hills. Here they are. We climb Madeira, Fire and Mirador. Mirador is a first category climb, and the last time we finished in Cangas, Enrique Chima was the winner then, and that was 25 years ago, back in 1978. Let's get to the action then, because as I say, things are happening. 2 riders are out of the Tour already. Not finishing the team time trial is Ivan Caranta, and not starting the road race today, Mario Cipollini.
Well, they're just getting themselves organised here. You can see almost, or feel almost, the urgency in the pedalling action of these riders. Perez on the front there looks very strong indeed, as you can see at the back there in second position. I think Carlos Sastre is taking a few risks to try and get himself a little bit of shelter from the wind. This will be 3 kilometres to go right now. The clock will start again, and if it's still 35 seconds, well, these 2 riders don't have all that much to worry about, because there's nobody really got the pressure on the front end of the main field to bring it all back together.
And then it's up to Bob Roll to keep an eye on who finishes best of the Once boys to tell me who the next leader of the team is.
Absolutely. I think that they'll let Igor Gonzalez Galeano go ahead of his teammates to keep the jersey. We thought that Angel Vicioso, who looked to be still in the front group with about 5 Ks of climbing to go, might get the jersey, but then all hell broke loose in the peloton. The gap came down a little bit there. They lost 3 seconds, but I think they're going to have enough cushion all the way to the finish. De Galdeano's keeping the jersey. Luis Perez is winning the stage. Carlos Sastre is getting some time on GC. That's my prediction.
All right, well, we've got the 2 leaders, and Sastra's looking for the stage win. He's had 1 stage win in the Tour de France this year, stage number 13. Striking a little bit earlier in the Tour of Spain, stage number 2 today. And it's been a tough opening road race stage for the riders in the Tour. Some big surprises out on the highway. A lot of riders found lacking here on the hills of the Asturias. Remember, in the wettest area of Spain here, the race entirely through the Asturias today. But the rain thankfully has kept off, but the countryside certainly looks a bit green.
2 kilometres to go right now, and just quickly to refresh ourselves of what the finish is like. In fact, with about 500 metres to go, there's a very difficult right-hand bend, followed by another corner with 250 metres to go into the finishing line. And fortunately today it is not going to be a bunch sprint, because if it had been, I think it would have been a rather tricky run in towards the finish. There's the group now coming up to 2 kilometers to go, and still they're holding on to that half a minute advantage, the two leaders, so it should go to either of them. And neither of them great winners. It's always very difficult when you're in a two-man situation after a long effort like that to see just exactly who is going to get themselves the win.
5 seconds in 2 kilometers, that's not enough to bring back the two leaders, but it is keeping the race lead firmly in the Oncé camp. And that's all Oncé are doing now. They've turned off the chase. They feel as though they've got this race basically under control. Although these two riders, of course, are coming into play on the days that lie ahead. And Sastre is a good mountain climber. We know that. So too is Perez. Not quite at the level as perhaps as Sastre, but riders who could challenge over the next couple of days for that leader's golden jersey. Out of the hunt today by a long way, Levi Leipheimer certainly, and others we will look for. We believe Gonzalez is behind as well. He was chasing down the mountain, dropped on the climb at 1 kilometer to go to the finish.
Well, 1 kilometer to go. They'll be looking for a left-hand bend in a short while, followed by a right-hander, and now's the moment when they're starting to think about how they're going to handle the sprint. You can see in second position here, Carlos Sastre is not a powerful bike rider, and just looking at the body there, Bob, on Luis Perez, he looks a much more powerful rider, a lot bigger thighs, a lot stronger, but it's all a question of tactics when it comes down to a sprint like this. It's difficult because these two men have been putting a lot of effort into the success of the breakaway for the last 15 kilometers.
Yes, absolutely. Sastre on the front now, just trying to keep the tempo up so he gets as much time as possible. Luis Perez has taken the second position there. He'll watch Sastre, who'll be able to gauge his effort. Here is the last corner with just a few hundred meters to go.
So Sastre has the lead now, and Perez is in a perfect position here. Now Sastre has had a good win this year in the Tour de France. He finished 6th in the Tour de Romandie, but you always want to win. He's opening up the sprint now. Now Perez, I think, with a look over his shoulder, has conceded here. Or is he going to kick again? Because if he can get the win, this will be without doubt his finest win as well. He's not going to go for it. Oh, yes, he is. Here he comes, and on the line. Oh, not quite the wrong line, sorry. As now Perez is going to take the stage win. It'll be his second win of the year. He won a stage of the Tour de Navarra. It's his second win ever in the Vuelta España. I'm not surprised he's all smiles at 29 years of age. And boy, did they close that gap down on the run-in as well. As Scarponi, I think it is, who comes up on the left there, and Heras is just in there, the points leader. And in fact, we're going to have that'll be Joaquim Rodriguez in that points jersey, Bob, who will be the new leader of the Tour.
Well, we'll have to see what the point situation is. We won't know till they give the jersey out, but that's a very strange situation. Maybe he wasn't totally familiar with how the situation was going to go. It might be the first three riders. Luis Perez, however, doing a great little sprint there. No problem at all getting the better of Carlos Sastre in the sprint. He looked to be the stronger, and Sastre, though, gained some time on the field. Let's see exactly what the time gap is. It was about 20-25 seconds by the finish.
He certainly put in a strong burst up to the line here. I think these two riders, the most important thing for them was to pull back as much time as possible. But this man, Luis Perez, had the power when it came up to the acceleration for him to get that win.
Now let's have a look at the stage results. Perez getting the victory ahead of Carlos Sastre in the sprint. Alejandro Valverde of Kelme getting home in third place. Martin Perdiguero of Domina Vacandi, happy to be in the Tour, no doubt, taking fourth. And Joaquim Rodriguez significantly there in fifth place, first of the Oncé riders, and that should be enough to give him the golden jersey. David Echeverria did well to hang on and finish in sixth after his breakaway. Sinkovic, Igor Astalor of Seiko, Dario Frigo there, and Gorka Gonzalez completing the top 10 overall, all at 15 seconds. Aito Gonzalez, we understand, however, didn't get back to that group, has lost time today. Here is the new leader of the Tour. It stays, of course, with Oncé. They could have paired 1 from 7 riders, equal on time at the start of the day. But in fact, this man was the best placed of the team. He crossed the line in 5th place, so Joaquim Rodriguez now leads this race both on points and more significantly on the golden jersey competition. And as we look out across the northern coastline here of Spain, the rain has found the race again today, raining since the off this morning, but hopefully it'll be a little bit drier by the time the riders get to Santander. Let's have a look very briefly where we go. It's a 96-mile stage today, 154 kilometres. coming away from the hills of the Asturias as we now head in towards Santander. 35th time we'll have finished at this port on the northern coast of Spain. After the 17th kilometre today, we lost one rider from the Seiko team. There's the situation. We've got 194 left of the 198 who started out on Saturday. Gavazzi is the last rider to abandon, or the first rider of the day for Seiko. And moments ago we also lost David Plaza from Team Bianchi. We've had pictures of him, in fact, sitting in the team car holding his face. He has a very, very severe toothache, and although he struggled into finish yesterday and was in last position, he's gone today as the pain has continued.
Well, there you can see there's a big lead out now by the US Postal Service. There is Erik Zabel there in about 7th position, right on the wheel of Alessandro Petacchi. Acceleration now coming from Bianchi, but it's complete chaos. Team men are looking round there to see where their leaders are for the moment, because everybody wants to make sure as they come into the final 3 kilometers right now that their team leaders are not going to get caught out by a split towards the end.
Well, if Team Bianchi coming up, I would suspect that is for Fabrizio Guidi. He's always ridden well in this race in the past. But now it looks like Euskaltel is giving it one last go here. They don't have any great sprinters, but they're going to try and do something.
Pull back there by Sergei Ivanov in 2nd position in the white jersey of Fassa Bortolo. He's working for his team leader right now, Alessandro Petacchi. It's still all very much together. Everybody is grappling for position, trying to stay at the front end. They don't want to put their noses into the wind too early. And in fact, the Euskaltel Euskadi rider is still holding an advantage of 3 or 4 bike lengths, but he's going to get swept up pretty soon.
Oh, just look how wet that road is now. This is Juan Fuentes of Seiko now has got to the front over Sergei Ivanov, but they've got that train together and they've organised it better than I would have suspected. It looked to me as though Petacchi was backing out of this about 4 kilometres ago, but he's got the train up there now at 2 kilometres to the finish, 2,000 metres. Alessandro Petacchi is now putting himself in a position to win a stage of his 3rd Grand Tour of the year. Only 2 other riders in the world have ever done that, and not since 1958. He has a real chance, but bet your life Erik Zabel will know that, and I'm sure he's locked on his wheel.
He's absolutely locked on the wheel of Alessandro Petacchi, who's got 3 or 4 teammates around him right now. But I tell you what, look at that, there's a crash.
Yep.
Half a dozen riders gone off the road straight in that corner.
Well, that was to be expected on that sweeping bend. It looks like it is Verada or possibly not, but it's certainly a Lamprey rider down remounted. There's more riders in the bales down below our camera. We can't go down to find out, so let's research the front of the bunch.
And they're not inside the last kilometre either,
They'll
so
lose
those riders are going to lose time. And in fact, a yellow jersey went down there, so that would be one of the riders from Once as well. The confusion is not going to perturb the sprinters at the front end of the main field. And look at that, a complete change in colour right now. All white and blue jerseys. Fassa Bortolo are right up there. I think Jans Verada is still there as well, because there's a Lamprey rider in about 10th place.
At 1 kilometre to go, that looks like Verada just going under the red banner there, about 12 men down the line, because that crash happened much further back where the sprinters would not have been. It'll be interesting to know if that was an Once rider that went down. It could have been a Vina Calderola rider. They're similar colours. Angel Edo is the rider just at the bottom of our picture. Zabel has got himself up there too. But it's all Fassa Bortolo trying to work this one out as they lead now. There's Zabel trying to jump on as Petacchi goes through 2nd. Zabel is looking for that wheel. He's got 3rd. It's going to be between Zabel and Alessandro Petacchi. Here's the lineup. Angel Edo is the rider in the green jersey trying to get in. He's waiting. He's got a little bit of respite as they come into the home straight now. As Fassa Bortolo and Domino Vacanzi might have Lombardi in on the picture here. Now that looks like the style of Lombardi. It is, who's gone through in 2nd place as they come off that very tight bend. We need to get back to the front to see if Lombardi's got through. Petacchi looking around. Lombardi trying to break through on the left of the picture here. Julian Dean goes now. Dean on the inside to the left of our picture. Petacchi going for it as they come to the line. He's got it. Alessandro Petacchi takes it on the line, and it looks to me as though Julian Dean would not have been too far away from it. And talk about the race of the falling leaves. Look at them down the home straight. Tom Boonen did look as though he was in the picture, possibly 2nd or 3rd to the right of our picture, but Alessandro Petacchi took many risks and held his position well. No doubt who the winner was. We've seen it 10 times already this year on the big tours. Now it's a big tour stage win number 11 for Alessandro Petacchi. Clear 2nd place on this angle for Zabel. Tom Boonen nearest camera, they're saying made it. Are you sure? Yes, Bonan will get 3rd for that. But there we are. At the moment is Rodriguez, who is still the leader. 2nd day in the golden jersey for him. 0 time for the first 4 riders on the overall classification. This is Santander. Today it's still a little bit stormy here, but the riders now heading on the road to Burgos, where they're hoping that the weather will be a little bit kinder to them than it was at the stage finish yesterday. Paul, bad news overnight. Cadel Evans out with yet another broken collarbone.
Very sad news for Cadel Evans. It's the third time this season that he's broken his collarbone, and his first season with Team Telecom, where they were hoping he was going to be as good as he was last year in the Giro d'Italia. But I think for Cadel, the year's over.
All right, well, let's have a look at the map for the route today, because I shouldn't think it'll be a sprinter's delight, but you never know. We do have one climb, though, right in the middle. Sadly, it's before our pictures have come to air, so we can't show you that climb. The rider's going from Santander down to Burgos. Once over the first category climb, there's a third category climb to follow, and then the run down to the finish. Massive tailwind. He's probably covering these kilometres about 1 minute and 2 seconds just now. With this tailwind, but he's got 1 kilometre to go. It's 2.5 years, more or less, give or take a month or so, since Unai Echeverria won a professional race. He's now looking for a big result here, and I think he's richly deserved it. He took the gamble a long way out, a little bit further than I imagined. There was a time when they pulled them back to 1 minute. The peloton seemed to be coming back into play. All of a sudden, nobody would do any work. Teammates of the breakaways got to the front, caused problems with the chase, and here's the result. When you've got 2 team riders in the lead group, Bob, your team manager gets very upset if you don't win the day.
Yes, absolutely. They would be very upset if they missed out on this really good opportunity to win a stage. Euskaltel Euskadi, one of the smaller Spanish teams, but the most aggressive, the most competitive, and they're going to get a big payoff here by Unai Echeverria winning a stage of the Tour of Spain, the home tour, and so very important to all these Spanish teams on a sponsorship level. This will be a fantastic result for the Euskaltel Euskadi team.
Now with 13 minutes to make up, he's not going to take on the race lead here, but he's not going to even give that a second thought. Unai Echeverria of Venezuela, and almost certainly the first ever cyclist from his country to win a stage of the Tour of Spain, is coming down the home straight with all the time in the world now. Zip up the jersey, two-handed salute, 3.5 hours the stage today, and the clock starts now. It won't count up towards 13 minutes though, so he can just bask in the sunshine of, oh dear me, steady on. We've had one crash today, caused out on the road by a motorcycle, and Fabian Jecker falling there. He's on the road. Let's hope he starts tomorrow. This will be the sprint now for second place. Now Gutierrez can pack a punch here, but he's sat at the back, and Echeverria looking now to make it a 1-2 for Euskaltel Euskadi. He certainly is holding on there and looking to make the move around. I think it's Cárdenas who is leading it out for the finish. Oh no, it's Isidro Nozal. Nozal is the new leader of the Tour. That is not in dispute. But here comes the pocket dynamo, David Echeverria, who gets a 1-2 for Euskaltel Euskadi on the line. Fabulous result, well worked, great tactics, and I think third place there went also to, I'm not sure who it went to, but it doesn't really matter. Nozal was right there for fourth, I think Nozal got, and that would give him the lead. Now there's a big haul for the line. Now we might see a difference in the results here, because Zabel again mixing, but about 8 or 9 men down. And I don't think we're going to see Petacchi bother with this one. It doesn't look as though he's going to take place in the bunch sprint. I hope we get to see the front here. Oh, there they are. As we come up towards the line now, we've got the Fuenlabrada team there trying to get in on the mix. But on the far right, Benoit Joachim is having a little dig. And Ado is coming through on the inside. But through the middle comes Erik Zabel. And the champion of Germany makes it look easy. He'll just kick himself now. It wasn't for first place. The two Echeverrias on the top, they're not brothers of course, they come from different countries, they share the same surname. Echeverria finishing off the sprint for Unai with 44 seconds deficit there for David. Cárdenas, another good sprinter, got third. Gutierrez, Van Geulen. In sixth place is the next man in the golden jersey, Isidro Nozal, last of the group. David Echeverria has come up now into second place at 50 seconds, same time as Jacqueline Rodriguez, who was the leader for a couple of days. He holds third. Igor Gonzalez de Galdiano and Marcus Serrano. So the only real change here, apart from the leader, is the new name of Echeverria in second. Further down, Beltran stays there in the best of the rest, as it were, for US Postal, Heras. These two go down just one place because of the arrival of David Echeverria. Osa is there, Aitor. Unai drops behind Mancebo. That completes the top 10. Oscar Sevilla at 1:35 now, but still holding a good position. He was 45 at the start of the day. And Aito Gonzalez, the defending champion, 3:34. Levi Leipheimer just lost another little bit of time on the run-in today. He's now almost 21 minutes behind, which means that Levi now is going to have to change his thinking on this event and use it to get some great legs for next season. There's the new leader. In fact, Rodriguez had hoped he got the lead yesterday because he's a local man where we finished yesterday at Santander, but the good luck for him has come one day later, and the man in yellow, for the golden jersey rather now, is Nozal. And as we move away from the northern coastline of Spain, the weather is getting a little bit better, and the riders will certainly welcome that. The stage today, 166.7 kilometres. That's a little over 105 miles, and the riders now in full flight. As the riders now make their way, they came into Soraya by motor vehicle, but they leave it, of course, in the saddle, and on the way now. Zaragoza, a town, or city rather, we're visiting for the 43rd time. It's the third most popular stop-off city on the Vuelta route since it started.
This is a great run-in. It's not dangerous at all for the sprinters this afternoon, but they've just got to keep their teammates on the front. The idea of a lead-out is to keep the pace as high as possible and stop the confusion of lesser riders moving to the front and all of a sudden feeling that they've got a chance in the sprint, as we saw on the opening stage of the Tour de France. I think a loss to the Tour de France this year was the absence of Mario Cipollini's team when it came down to the sprints, because they would line the race out for the last 20 or 30 kilometres. But right now there are two teams on the front keeping the pace nice and high, and this shot here gives you an idea just how fast everybody's going.
And swooping into that adverse cambered bend. I thought little David Echeverria sitting at the wrong end of the peloton there, for the moment at least. That long line as they start to come up this slight incline after the descent stretches them right out again. It's a difficult job to keep control at the front. Now they're saying the distance to go is 1.6 kilometres. I can't believe that is right.
Well, it could be. They are flying along at the moment. They could be knocking off the kilometres.
We haven't seen a single banner today, have we?
Well, I think the roads are too wide to get the banners across the road. There was a banner just a few moments ago strapped to a bridge. And I think the fact is we must remember these guys are clocking off kilometres at around about 60 seconds ago right now.
Yes, even inside that at times, coming in at plus 65 kilometres an hour, so they really are coming in very, very quickly. There will be a few little hiccups as they approach the line, and that might disrupt the absolute speed of the Fassa Bortolo riders, but it looks like the Fassa team now have just about hit the front. But as we're entering the barrier straight, our mileage is absolutely correct. They have just galloped into town at a tremendous speed, and oh, there's been a crash here. Now we saw the riders ricochet there. That is a nasty crash, and it looks here as though the Lampre rider, and it looks like Alessandro Cortinovis, has hit the barrier there with the side of his face. I hope he's okay, but he's taken a nasty blow as we go under. I think that might be the kilometre to go, that red sign on the right of the road. We're feeling our way into the finish here, because they are saying 1 kilometre to the finish. And look at this, that crash has disrupted the finish here.
Looks like it's Petacchi up there in second place. It's definitely two Fassa Bortolo riders, and there's a big gap in the main field. I think the Lampre rider trying to come across there in fourth position on the road is bound to be Jans Verrada, but the man at the back end of the race is in serious difficulties. It is Petacchi.
And Angel Edo has got his back wheel and is going to try and take him on the line. Well, this is a very, very easy victory for Alessandro Petacchi, because nobody, as they couldn't with Cipollini, will get by him. As Julian Dean gets third place there on the line. Zabel was probably sixth. We'll wait for the photo on that, but that was in the end a very easy victory for Petacchi, disrupted, and so too was all of our concentration by the accident once again on the running. We didn't see the impact, but our cameras picked up the fact that the Lampre rider was down.
This was a brilliant lead out by the Fassa Bortolo team. They peeled off their last man, Guido Trentin, with about 200 meters to go, and then it was just an absolute drag race to the finish by this man, and the counting begins right now, just a few meters after the finish.
It is true. In fact, Petacchi himself in his press conference apparently the other day said he's won 20 races. Well, we've got 22 down for him of victories, so he can't even keep up with his own number of victories right now. And then, of course, some people don't count the smaller races which don't have World Cup points. But we've got him down for win number 23 today. And yes, it's as we thought. All of the men that mattered finished in that main pack. Nozal, 50 seconds still, all intact, over Joaquin Rodriguez, who because of his finish is in second place. Galdeano third, Echeverria is in fourth, and Marcus Serrano completes the top five there for the Once Roscri team. So the time trial, don't forget, is tomorrow, and these we think are the riders to watch: Igor Gonzalez de Galdeano, Aitor Gonzalez, the defending champion of the Tour, Dario Frigo, David Miller, but we won't see much of him, he's so far behind overall, and Angel Casero. They're riders, and don't forget, Roberto Heras cannot afford to lose time tomorrow. It's a big effort for him. Now back down to the podium, there he is. They've dragged him out very quickly today, and Isidro Nozal continues to lead the race. Once, the only team so far to have provided us with the race leader, and they've used 3 of the riders since they won that team time trial. And it's a beautiful day in Zaragoza for the time trial, a city which is no stranger indeed for the race situation. Let's have a little look at the overall standings here before we get to all of the action in the time trial. Isidro Nozal here at 50 seconds. David Echeverria, that's the way it's been for a couple of days now. Joaquim Rodriguez, 50 seconds. Igor Gonzalez, he's a man who can ride a good time trial. He's yet to start, of course, today, 50 seconds. And Marcus Serrano in the Once squad, completing there the top 5. Further down, in comes US Postal, second in that time trial almost a week ago now, with Beltran Heras still up there in 6th and 7th. Oza 8th and 9th, Aitor and Unai that is, and Francisco Mancebo, another iBenesto.com rider, in 10th. A look at the notables. Oscar Sevilla fighting back to fitness. He's had a crash in this race, but he's still holding 14th. And of the 2 previous winners, Angel Casero, 39th, and Aitor Gonzalez, both very good time trialists. And we'll look for a result today to move them up a little higher, I think, as we go into the Pyrenees tomorrow on our journey into France. Well, we had a little bit of a shunt in the finishing sprint yesterday, and sadly, the lead-out man for Jan Zerada here, Alessandro Cortinovis, came off the worst. A broken jaw and a fractured cheekbone and a collarbone has left him in hospital and a non-starter today, and we can only wish him well, because that really is a sad way to leave the Tour of Spain. Well, it is, as I say, a beautiful day in the city today. Perfect day for the time trial. We remind ourselves of the route first. As we now stay in the city, we came in from the north west side. We now race right around Zaragoza today, and perfect conditions. There's no challenge as far as the roads are concerned, but just look at it, 72 degrees at the moment, a nice humidity at 53%, lovely blue skies, everything looks royal out there, and a pretty strong wind blowing at 24 miles an hour coming in from that northwest corner. Well, I can tell you that Miller has finished, or watching his ride very early on, 18th man to start of the field of 188. He's sitting down waiting to see if anybody can match the time, and he's already told us, in fact, that this was one of the hardest time trials he has ever ridden. So he really did put his weight behind it. When he came to the line, 54.54, and that is still the best time. As we look at the standings so far, Alex Zula finished soon after him. He's at 1:41. Bobby Julich still in 3rd place. Vitaliati was an early leader, and Torsten Ekman of the Telecom team. That's the top 5 overall, but look at those big time gaps. Levi Leipai, for example, has lost many minutes to David Miller, which he won't be too concerned with, of course, but I think he's destined to lose a lot of time again today. Last year's winner really put a big effort in here, and is being rewarded with a very, very good time indeed. It's not the winning time, but that is not important at this stage of the Tour. 3rd he's holding at the moment, Aitor Gonzalez. He is not going to get the better of either Miller or Ruska, and he wants to get inside 55.31 to beat Grabsch. So David Miller survived a big name there, but there we are, Aitor Gonzalez in with 55.15.
Here is Igor Gonzalez de Galdeano in the start line. He's the favorite to take the yellow jersey now, and if he can do some solo rides in the mountain, we're going to have a real fight all the way to Madrid between him and the other climbing contenders.
Well, he lies 4th overall at 50 seconds, Igor Gonzalez de Galdeano, but carries the pressure really of winning this race for Once, the last time this team will race in a major Grand Tour, because it's the end of the line for the sponsorship this season. Rather sadly, it's been a wonderful sponsor within cycling, and so Gonzalez de Galdeano is now underway, and he's got the qualifications to win this race. Frigo is arriving here, and this will put him in 6th place finish if he can hang on, and he can. 55.55. There's the 10 kilometer, and now that is a surprise. 28 seconds quicker. Well, That's amazing.
That's amazing, but don't forget, we did mention last year this man was the time trial champion of Spain, and it's a 28-second beating of David Miller at this part of the course. He doesn't look comfortable at all, but let's not forget this man has rivaled people like Lance Armstrong at the Tour de France, and he wore, of course, the yellow jersey for a long time last year, and I think right now he's trying to build himself a nice buffer before we go into the mountains.
We're absolutely stunned by this. Nozal has gone through, responding to the race leadership of the Vuelta España with the best time. He's never looked as though he's been doing that sort of a ride, but the clock says he is. Well, so Roberto Heras, he slipped behind the time of arch rival Anel Casero, and also Alex Zula is recording a better time. There's Michael Barry at 30.19, and I think that's going to be quicker too than Roberto, his teammate, just as they hit about the same time, 30.19.3. So they've gone through pretty much the same, Barry and Heras. So Heras not riding any better or any worse than I think we expected of this young man. He climbs really well, though. This is the man we're interested in, though, the golden jersey of the Vuelta España, heading for the time check at 21 kilometers. Rodriguez has gone through, by the way, and he is wallowing in the top 90 riders, starting the day in 3rd place overall. So he's going to be washed away from the leaderboard tonight. He held the lead for 2 days.
Well, he's still showing a very fine position on his machine, right on the center of the handlebars, and you know what, he's gone through that 21 kilometer check with a time 45 seconds better than David Miller, and a time a minute faster than his own teammate Igor Gonzalez de Galdeano. You know, they always say that the leader's jersey changes a man. Well, it's certainly done that this afternoon.
Well, it reminds me of what Sean Kelly once said to me. I might have told you before, but Sean rode the best time trials of his life when he was a leader of the Tour. He was not interested in doing a good time trial if he wasn't racing for a high place in the classification. Well, as Heras comes up here, it's not going to be a long wait before Beltran is also in that straight, and in fact they're turning the motorbike off behind. He might be right behind him. And he is. So Beltran has almost bridged a 2-minute gap here to Roberto Heras, which is going to give him a solid position in the overall. The 2 US Postal riders, both Spaniards, and this has been an exceptional ride by Manuel Beltran. It'll be overshadowed by the race leader when he comes in, but you know, this man might become the protected rider now on US Postal. It all depends what happens tomorrow when we go to the Pyrenees. 55.16 then, and the 4th best time for Beltran. As Gonzalez de Galdeano comes in, Miller is best time 54.54. Gonzalez de Galdeano, has he sprinted the gap closed over those last 10 kilometers? We were talking about 15 seconds difference. I don't think he'll get to the finish in time to pit Miller, but it will be very, very close. But whatever happened after that fast start in the second sector, he lost time and recovered from it. Desperate sprint. It'll go into 2nd place, I think, here for Igor Gonzalez de Galdeano. He's going to have to push Rushka. As we come up to Rushka's time now, he'll drop into 3rd place, and that will be good enough, I think. He'll just stay ahead of Aitor Gonzalez, who actually has done a very, very good time here as it's turning out now, and is putting him back in the frame as we go into the mountains. 55.11, 3rd place. I can tell you that time, 55.11, would have won the 40-kilometer British Time Trial Championship in 1965.
Just a quick look in the car there. The passenger riding alongside Manolo Sainz was Yoshiba Belocchi, and that's quite remarkable. He crashed out of the Tour de France with that dramatic crash when he was going into a corner being chased by Lance Armstrong. But this is the story of the Tour of Spain this afternoon.
It's been a ride of his young life, this, and he's going to come in with about a 53.30 performance, which will give him victory on the day, on the 2nd win of his career, and he will increase his lead in the Vuelta España. You cannot have asked more from this rider. On the day when we thought he would see his jersey pass away to a teammate, he has kept it with a vengeance. 53.34. He wins by a minute and 20 seconds. That grimace is very shortly going to be one huge smile. Fabulous performance by Nozal. There's the official result of that. A minute 20 back to the ace time trialist David Miller. But the 2 big names, Gonzalez de Galdeano at 1:37, last year's champion Gonzalez at 1:41. They have performed very well, really, because they should stay the course as we head around the circuit towards Madrid. Still a couple of weeks and a few days away. 2:27, hats off to the boys. That's the official time gap now. 2:42 to Beltran, who has done the ride of his life too in many ways. And Heras good place, Bob. 5th overall, although the gaps are opening at 4:35.
He started the day 6th overall, moved up 1 place. That is a solid ride by Roberto Heras, who we've seen light up the field when they're on the very steepest climbs. We have 5 mountaintop finishes to come in the big mountains and 1 climbing time trial before the end. So this bike race is not over by any stretch of the imagination.
So he gets his 3rd golden jersey, and this time he might feel safe for a day or two because he has a lead of 2 minutes and 27 seconds. He salutes the crowd, and he won't have time to think of where we are going tomorrow because we are heading up into the Pyrenees. Let's have a look first of all to the route. We say goodbye to Huesca today, heading due north to the French borders in the centre of the Pyrenees, over the top of the mountains into France and up to Cauterets, with the uphill finish of course taking us up to 1,360 metres. Now Cauterets not the only climb on this stage of 190, the longest stage of the race. Montrepeau, second category. The Portelet is the gateway to France, the giant Col d'Aubisque, a very famous mountain in its own right, and finishing on Cauterets-Combasque at the end of what will be a very, very tough day's cycling indeed. And the riders are now on French soil. In fact, when we join the action, they'll be on the Col d'Aubisque, but this happened about 45 minutes ago. The leaders, 9 of them clear of the field, including Levi Leipheimer, all following Johan Horace over the top of the Alto de Portelet, bringing them into France, snatching the daily newspapers there just to push up their jerseys for the very long and very rapid descent down into French soil. Just caught a sight there of the French sign. Now, let me first of all update you straight away on the number of riders left in the race. Yes, we had 188 on the start line, but we now only have 183 and 12 of the 22 teams intact. But take a note of rider 158 there. Frank van den Broeke abandoned about 10 minutes ago. We didn't expect that because Frank, we thought, was going to do well in this race, distinguish himself somewhere along the way and go on for a successful attack at the world title in Canada. And he may be rethinking the situation right now. This very select group that was about 25 strong is thinning out rather rapidly now on the climb up to the finish. There's been an attack by Roberto Heras. He has gone back into the peloton, but you will notice the golden jersey has disappeared from the group.
Well, Isidro Nozal had put an awful lot of effort into this bike race here this afternoon, and I think he was the sacrificial lamb for Igor Gonzalez de Galdeano. Igor Gonzalez de Galdeano is just in about 3rd position there. Looked like Aitor Gonzalez was going off the back of the group as well. Félix Cárdenas, I think, has got fire ants in his legs because he is attacking at every possible opportunity.
I'm just seeing here if we can catch a glimpse of the golden jersey, but it seems now that he has completely unhooked from the back of that group and is now in real danger of losing his lead, even if it goes only to his teammate Gonzalez de Galdeano, who's still in that group down there. But more importantly, Beltran is still ahead with Luis Perez, and he's looking now to try and get the time gap that will give him the race lead, because remember, there are no time bonuses in the Tour of Spain.
Well, if Isidro Nozal gets completely blown away here this afternoon, all Beltran has to do is finish 15 seconds ahead of Igor Gonzalez de Galdeano to try and get himself that lead. Here is the golden jersey right now, and you can see, I think, Bob, by his pedaling action that the lights have gone out.
Very labored motion here now. He has to conserve 2.5 minutes to Gonzalez de Galdeano and a few more, or a few less than that, excuse me, to Manuel Beltran. I don't think he's going to do it. If he does do it, his days are numbered in the golden jersey as race leader. But Igor Gonzalez de Galdeano has now come forward. He's going to try to conserve the jersey for the team. He does need to close some time up to Manuel Beltran, or the US Postal team rider will get the golden jersey. This is a very exciting bike race. You can see by his face, he's ridden a fantastic Tour of Spain, and maybe now his quotes about going at a snail's pace are going to come true, but he has done a great Tour of Spain. He did an incredible ride for Igor Gonzalez de Galdeano. Here's a Benesto rider attacking at the front there, just off the front of the Roberto Heras and de Galdeano group.
Well, I honestly feel that Nozal has ridden a real race leader's tour today. He didn't ride it for himself, quite clearly. He was riding for Gonzalez de Galdeano. He is up there. We've got just 3 kilometres to go to the finish now, and the battle is on. The field are slowly winding everybody in except Rasmussen.
Well, there's the group there with Roberto Heras and Igor Gonzalez de Galdeano. They're pulling themselves up here to Aitor Osa, who was actually in the leading group just a few moments ago. He's about to get picked up by this group, and looking there you can see the blue jersey of Igor Gonzalez de Galdeano. He probably expects this afternoon that he's going to write himself in the record books as the new leader of this bike race. In fact, there's been a change there because that was Unai Osa going off the front of the group.
So Unai going away. There's 10 in the group down there. This is Oscar Sevilla, and he's coming up. He's been joined by Perez, but is that the leader up there, Rasmussen, or is it Osa we've lost track of? I think it's Rasmussen, isn't it?
Well, I think in fact Rasmussen's just a little bit further up the front here. We've got to get Sevilla across to the group of Manuel Beltran, because the race situation at the moment is one lone leader. The lone leader is Michael Rasmussen. Two chasers. The two chasers are, of course, Beltran and Luis Perez, and we can see a lot more riders being put into difficulty here right now. That group there, just about to take the hairpin, is the group of Igor Gonzalez de Galdeano and Roberto Heras. We're at the steepest part of the climb here right now, just going inside of 3 kilometers to go, and we're kicking up still at around about an average gradient of 10%.
Well, this is a real horrible climb now, because the riders have raced so hard. Every attack looked like being the last one, but they've fought the way back. Vladimiro Belli on the frontier, Gonzalez de Galdeano, and right behind him Roberto Heras. Frigo is there as well. This is a very select group of some 9 riders, but there's still a chance of a change, and it might go the way of Beltran.
Well, Roberto Heras tried everything today to get away from the main field on the slopes of the Col de l'Aubisque, and he keeps looking over his shoulder. He's probably still feeling a little bit itchy. He wants to try and put some time between himself and Igor Gonzalez de Galdeano. And a little bit further back we can see 1 or 2 riders in serious difficulty here right now.
Second, I think.
They really are starting to split the race. This is the group just behind the group of the leader of the bike race, I think by the end of tonight, Igor Gonzalez de Galdeano.
Well, there are some tired legs now on this climb. It is a very irregular race right now. Everybody throwing in their 10 pennyworth, and all of a sudden they are being rejected. Ico Flores is there. Alberto Gonzalez. There is Aitor Gonzalez here, setting the pace. He's had his moments today, but it hasn't really worked out, and now it looks as though he's paying the price as he's drifting away from the front of the action. And this rider, content with just looking after his own pace, and it's up to them to catch him if they can. And slowly but surely he can tick off the kilometres.
Well, he's coming under the banner indicating 2 kilometers to go right now, and his pedaling action is nice and fluid. It doesn't look like a man who's beginning to weaken at all as we go back and have a check to see just exactly who is in this group here. Just at the back there is Leonardo Pipoli. In front of him in the white jersey, Dario Frigo. A bit further forward, Roberto Heras. He must be a little bit frustrated, I think, Bob, by the fact that he put in a fine attack here this afternoon. He thought he'd blown the race to pieces, but Igor Gonzalez de Galdeano, like a true leader of a team, never actually panicked. He allowed the attack to form and used his team to pull himself back into contention.
De Galdeano's doing a fabulous ride right now. I don't think we've seen Manuel Beltran come back, and I think that's what Roberto Heras is doing right now, playing the team game. He doesn't want to attack if he cannot get away from De Galdeano, because if Beltran has 15 seconds or more, he will get the jersey from Igor Gonzalez de Galdeano, who now is going to have to start making a tempo, as hard of a tempo as he's capable of, and try to close the gap down to Beltran.
This is the second group on the road at 55 seconds. That's the group which contains Manuel Beltran and Luis Perez. They've been joined by a third rider as well in that group, so they are still not really making inroads at all into the advantage of the man who leads this bike race, Michael Rasmussen. The next lone rider you can see a bit further down there is Oscar Sevilla, and then the group containing the majority of the contenders. But what's going to be important at the finish line right now this afternoon is the time that is being lost by Isidro Nozal.
And whether he will lose all of his conserved 2:27 to his teammate Igor Gonzalez de Galdeano. And I've got a feeling he's already lost it down there, you know, because he looked as though he was slowing right down at the moment.
Well, in fact, if the race were finished as it was right now, we do see a big loss by Isidro Nozal. The man who will be the leader at the end of the day is Manuel Beltran, because there was about 28 seconds between Igor Gonzalez de Galdeano's group and Manuel Beltran on the road. But the race is still 1.5 kilometers away from the summit.
What a fantastic ride by Michael Rasmussen. You can see there's hardly any fatigue, it seems, in his legs at this moment. He only has about a kilometer to go. He'll get the red flag in a moment. It's a flatter part. There it is. You can just see it in the distance. He can see that too. He knows he has a minute to conserve. Michael Rasmussen is doing a fabulous ride right now, and he is going flat out to the finish line. What a great ride by this Danish ex-mountain bike racer. Great to see Michael Rasmussen, a man I used to race against in the dirt, having a fabulous day out on the roads. We're in France, but it is the Tour of Spain. A great stage win for Rasmussen and the flagging fortunes of the Rabobank team.
Well, in fairness, you know, he started out life as a road racing cyclist, Michael Rasmussen, because he came in with a 3rd place in the World Junior Championships in '92 and followed that up a year later with a 4th place in the World Under-23 Championships. Then he went over to mountain biking. I remember, in fact, he finished 4th in the old mountain bike 4-day race, the Tour of Hawaii, when he won 2 stages of that back in 1997, and I was on the island at the time. And probably the last time I spoke to him, come to think of it. And now he's here, back to the road, and he's only won 1 race since he made his comeback to the road, and that was a stage of the Tour of Burgos last year.
This is the 2nd group on the road we're looking at right now. They're still hovering around about 1 minute behind Michael Rasmussen. Félix Cárdenas is in the group with Manuel Beltran, and there the big figure of Luis Perez. These men right now are changing the overall classification, because if Manuel Beltran can finish 15 seconds ahead of Igor González de Galdeano, then he will be the new leader of the bike race at the end of today, because I have a feeling, Bob, that Isidro Nozal is going to lose himself a lot more than the 2.5 minutes he had at the start of the day. But look at this.
Well, that's a ripper from Unai Osa. He finally has just scorched away. We've swung very rightly up to the finishing line, though, to welcome the Danish rider. Then the clocks will start when Beltran crosses the line to see if he's got the next golden jersey of this race, and the first time it will have passed to a team other than Once. But this rider, Michael Rasmussen, must feel, he doesn't look it, but he must feel fantastic inside. This has been an outstanding, well-taken victory. What a strong display this has been, with the Spanish police operating on French soil here now. As he comes up towards the line, a good chance to look over his shoulders. It's a victory and a nice wave to the crowd, and this is a serious road race win now for Michael Rasmussen, 29 years of age.
Remarkable to see these mountain bikers switching across to the road, and that was certainly a brave move by him. We would have expected Aitor Osa to be the favourite in the 2-man breakaway, but this man has showed us that mountain bikers, Bob, can ride the road very well. This is important right now. Manuel Beltran is chasing there after Cárdenas. Cárdenas is 2nd on the road. It's important for him to get as much time as possible. Cárdenas is going to get a 2nd place for him and a lot of King of the Mountains points, but the clock is important for the man in 2nd place in the blue jersey, Tricky Beltran.
Well, look at the desperation and the grimace on Beltran's face. He knows he needs 15 seconds from de Galdeano, as well as 2 minutes, 30 seconds plus. He is giving it everything. You can see it on his face to Isidro Nozal, the erstwhile leader at the moment. I think we're going to see Nozal coming in very far down the road, but it's going to be close between both of those riders to see whether or not the US Postal man will get the jersey. Here comes Cárdenas for 2nd place. Great ride by Cárdenas and huge mountain points. But look at Beltran sprinting all the way to the line. We're going to stop the clock at about 59 seconds for him, and now start counting it down to de Galdeano and Isidro Nozal.
So Beltran at 59 seconds on the clock. Perez comes in now. Now the clock will really start. 15 seconds, that's gone by. As now Frigo comes up towards the line as well. We're looking for the gold jersey, and we're looking for the time of 2:27. Frigo is in as the riders clear the ride. This is the end of this big group now, and the golden jersey not yet in sight, and he won't be, because there's Heras coming in on the left of our picture. And here comes González de Galdeano, so he is not going to be the leader. Beltran is still in the golden jersey, but 2:27, 3:26 is what we're looking for on the clock at the moment.
3:26 is what we need to see when we come up to the line for the golden jersey of Isidro Nozal. There's Vladimiro Belli, Leonardo Pipoli coming in right now, and a little bit further down that will be Inigo Cuesta. But right now what we're doing is looking at the clock. It's 2 minutes since the leader crossed the finishing line, and Flores coming up towards the line right now, but everybody is looking for the golden jersey, which is on the shoulders right now of Isidro Nozal. It's more than likely, I would say, Phil, going to swap across to Manuel Beltran tonight.
3:25, 3:26, that's what the clock must say. There's no time bonuses in the Vuelta, and it's all down to real time. And these riders now are looking for a new leader of the Tour. We've had 3 already. There's Sevilla come in at 2:30, and he might do it. Here he comes, fighting his way home, and he deserves to do it. He's ridden a wonderful race today. I think he's going to make it, you know. He's still inside 1 minute to the line. He's easily going to keep his jersey. Welcome to the podium, Isidro, because he's still in that golden jersey.
Well, I don't think we would have expected that, Phil. Look at the face on this man. He has been to the edge of purgatory and come back, and he's kept himself in the lead. I don't think he will believe that at all. But it's one more day in the golden jersey for that man, Isidro Nozal.
So the stage, though, won by the ex-mountain biker Michael Rasmussen, 54 seconds ahead of Félix Cárdenas, 58 in front of Manuel Beltran, who almost got the race lead, a minute 10 over Luis Perez, who attacked on all of the climbs today, and Aitor Oza did well to salvage 5th place out of the day. He came in also at a minute and 10 seconds. The mountain biker, 29 years of age, Michael Rasmussen, his 2nd ever road racing win and his best by far here. A stage for him now, and not just a stage in the Tour of Spain, but one of the prestigious mountain stages. Yes, 8 riders gave up in the Tour of Spain yesterday on the way into the Pyrenees and France. Today they make the return journey back across those mountains as we go from France back into Spain. And it's going to be a very tough day indeed. Well, first of all, let's have a look at the overall situation. It changed a bit yesterday. Isidro Nozal, though, didn't change. He's still on top of the leaderboard. Beltran coming up into 2nd place. Igor Gonzalez de Galliano, always up amongst the front runners, who's the leader on this day a week ago. He's in 3rd. Dario Frigo coming into the frame now at 3 minutes, and Roberto Heras, best placed of the US Postal Berry Floor team at 3 minutes 18 seconds. Now, the man who's stunning everybody ever since that wonderful time trial a couple of days ago, Paul, is Isidro Nozal.
Absolutely fantastic performance yesterday, and I suppose we should have realized that this young man, who's almost 26 years of age, was bound to do something as we got into the big mountains, because after all, he came to our attention last year in 2002 when he was the white jersey leader as best young rider at the Tour de France. He's been a professional since 1999, but I think, Phil, yesterday he really became a serious man. To hold on to that was incredible.
So Nozal is the leader. Who is going to take him on, Bob? It looks as though there's a 2-pronged attack possible from US Postal.
They have 2 riders in the top 5. This man, Roberto Heras, Lance Armstrong's #1 lieutenant in the mountains of the Tour de France, and perhaps the most gifted climber of the current generation. Roberto Heras, fabulous climber, has yet to really scintillate in the climbs of the Vuelta, but it's coming soon, I think, the attack from Heras.
So Beltran and Heras promising this morning at the sign-in that they would attack again today, as now we can see what is going to happen as these riders will continue. I really think that Beltran is turning out to be possibly the man to beat. He's certainly riding very, very well yesterday. All right, well, we've seen the top 5. Let's have a look a little bit further down. Francisco Mancebo staying there in the top 10. So too Aitor Gonzalez. Alejandro Valverde almost did enough to get the race lead yesterday. In the end, he's come up from 10th into 8th position. The winner yesterday, Michael Rasmussen, comes in now at 9th, and Unai Osa there completing the top 10. Let's have a look at the American riders in the race. Floyd Landers in his 2nd big tour, riding very strongly in the service of his 2 Spanish leaders. He's 57th. Hincapie there as well, and Bobby Julich from Team Telecom. The sprinter Fred Rodriguez. Levi Leipheimer, of the 180 men left in the race now, is 155th and is seeking form for what he hopes will be a good start to next year, the season 2004.